Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer
23 Best Movies of 2023. The COVID-19 pandemic hit movies hard, but 2023 was the light at the end of the tunnel. It was a great year for movies, the best since 2019. These are the 23 best movies of 2023, a mix of blockbusters, Oscar movies, action movies, and the like. 1 of 23. Oppenheimer. Critical acclaim and possible Oscar success for Oppenheimer. It felt good. However, how many would have imagined that an R-rated movie starring Cillian Murphy about the father of the atomic bomb would be a huge box office hit? This is the power of Christopher Nolan. Also, it's a great movie, a 3-hour biopic that never flags for a moment. 2 of 23. Barbie. Barb. The Barbenheimer phenomenon. Barbie proved to be the biggest hit of the year, a true tragic tale. Fortunately, Greta Gerwig's movie is also very good. It looks great, it's funny, and sharp, and the only problem is that it seems to set Gerwig up for a future where he makes big-budget, IP-based movies instead of the likes of Lady Bird. 3 of 23. Mission: Impossible, Dead Account Part 1. We had some good Part I movies in 2023. Sure, these films don't inherently have satisfying conclusions, but of the two, Mission: Impossible hits the semi-final note better. Also, Haley Atwell is added to every franchise. 4 of 23. Spider-Man: Across the Spider-Verse. Here's another first episode, but Spider-Verse glosses over that fact, and also lacks an ending. It's a hit, sure, but up until that point this movie flies. The distinct look of these films remains, and Spider-Verse scratches some of that Loki itch, but arguably in a better way. 5 of 23. Air. Ben Affleck won Best Director. Let's not forget this. Air is a movie about Sonny Vaccaro and Nike trying to sign Michael Jordan, and Jordan is barely a character in the movie. If that doesn't sound convincing, prepare to be surprised. It's one of those procedural movies, and like Moneyball, it's a sports movie that you don't need to be a sports fan to enjoy. 6 of 23. Are You There, God? I Am, Margaret. An adaptation of Judy Blume's book from 50 years ago. Why now does it feel basic at all? Well, it is clear that something had to be done here. Rachel McAdams shines as Margaret's mother, and it was wise to leave the film to Kelly Furman Craig, who was already great with the excellent but cheesy coming-of-age movie The Edge of 7th. 7 of 23. Past Lives. Past Lives was one of the first word-of-mouth indie loves of 2023, and rightfully so. While the film doesn't have an impressive cast, what it does have is great storytelling and strong emotional beats that never feel awkward. Oh, and a lead performance from Greta Lee that should lead to an Oscar nomination. 8 of 23. Asteroid City. France Dispatch was Wes Anderson's most Wes Anderson movie. Until the next one, Asteroid City seems overtly pejorative to Anderson's detractors, though Anderson's general mood is not pejorative. We're clearly on his wavelength, because getting this concentrated dose of Wes was exactly what we wanted. 9 of 23. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Yes, we had our doubts about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot too. Then, this full-gill animation came out and we changed our tune. It is fun. It may not be fresh, but it's not rehashed. In this era of endless reboots and remakes, that may seem like faint praise, but it's still praise. 10 of 23. M3 GAN. The first movie that attracted audiences in 2023 was M3 Gan. Sure, you've seen the trailer for the horror movie Puppet and thought, this looks stupid. Turns out, M3 Gan agrees. In M3 Gan there is a great sense of comedy and absurdity that helps create a real phenomenon. 11 of 23. John Wick, Season 4. There's a lot of mythology in Season 4, because that's what John Wick movies are now. Fortunately, the fourth installment toned down the story a bit compared to the third film and allowed more time for action. That's what these movies are ultimately about. Give us Keanu Reeves but around the world. Throw in some Donnie Yen and we'll be even happier. 12 of 23. Super Mario Bros. Movie. Sounds like a way to make a successful Super Mario Bros. The movie is to make it a fun animated movie rather than a high-concept action movie starring Dennis Hopper as a humanoid King Koopa. Before Barbie became a big hit, Super Mario Bros. Movie was the story at the box office. You get what you want from Mario World, and some delightful voice acting to boot. 13 of 23. Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead Rise splits the difference between the horror comedy Evil Dead 2 and the moodiness of the Evil Dead remake a few years ago. It's not fun horror, but apparently it's not terrible either, surfing the wave of the torture porn subgenre, the worst subgenre to ever hit the big screen. It's gross, sure, but not in an odious way. More in the way horror fans enjoy. 14 of 23. You Hurt My Feelings. Nicole Holofcener and Julia Louis-Dreyfus don't miss. Sure, Holofcener has only directed 2 JLD films, but both Enough Said and You Hurt My Feelings hit the domestic dramedy mark. Louis-Dreyfus plays a successful writer who is working on her first novel, which her husband says is really good, but then she overhears him tell a friend the novel's manuscript is, in fact, pretty poor. Cue the drama. Also, the keenly observed humor. 15 of 23. Five Nights at Freddy's. Honestly, the premise of Five Nights at Freddy's makes more sense as a movie than a video game. However, it was a video game phenomenon, giving the movie a built-in audience. That helped make it the horror success of the year. It's spooky Chuck E. Cheese, you either want it or you don't. 16 of 23. Priscilla. A year after Elvis, we got Priscilla. Sofia Coppola is not unlike Wes Anderson, in that her work tends to either yield fervent love or overarching displeasure. Her moody, methodical style is not for everyone, but it works for the story of Priscilla Presley, which is at least a different approach to the mythos of Elvis, one of the icons of American culture. 17 of 23. The Iron Claw. Apparently every now and again we need a heavy drama about professional wrestling. The wrestler briefly led to the resurrection of Mickey Rourke's career. Unfortunately for him, he proved too much of a maniac to do anything with it. Zac Efron doesn't need the same boost, but the Iron Claw was a chance for him to stretch his dramatic chops and get some critical love. The film focuses on the Von Erich family, legends of pro wrestling, but also a family who saw tragedy befall them time and time again. 18 of 23. Poor Things. Maybe it's tried to do the You're on Their Wavelength, or You Aren't for a third director on this list, but we're talking about Yorgos Lanthimos. The dude who directed Dogtooth. The guy who thinks of The Lobster as absurdist comedy. However, The Favorite got Oscar love, and apparently Emma Stone has grown to enjoy working with him. Poor Things is a Lanthimos movie, and there's nobody else who makes Lanthimos movies. 19 of 23. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This was a bad year for superhero flicks and comic book movies. Marvel seems to be on a downswing. Maybe the market got oversaturated. At least Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was good. It's the only superhero movie that can say that for 2023. James Gunn almost didn't get to make it, but fortunately he did, especially since it is his MCU swan song, and thus very likely the Guardians' swan song as well. 20 of 23. Killers of the Flower Moon. Every Martin Scorsese film is an event. He's one of the greatest directors of all time, and he's in his 80s, so we better enjoy him while we can. Killers of the Flower Moon is not some phoned-in work to be applauded because a legend of cinema directed it. 1. The dude made a movie that is over 3 hours long. 2. It's really good. The movie breathes, perhaps a smidge too much, but the moments where it coalesces are remarkable, and the cast is stellar. 21 of 23. The Killer. When you heard David Fincher was making a movie about a hitman based on a graphic novel, you may have expected a violent, visceral bit of miserablism, or perhaps some pulp sleaze in the vein of Gone Girl and the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Instead, we got kind of a comedy. The Killer is weird, glib, and nihilistic. It's also compelling, striking, and pretty funny. Yeah, it's a trip, but we're all in. 22 of 23. Napoleon. Ridley Scott doesn't care. He's going to do what he wants, and what he wanted this time around was to make an epic, historically inaccurate movie about Napoleon Bonaparte. You think the guy who directed House of Gucci is going to flinch in the face of criticism when you have Joaquin Phoenix playing Napoleon and have the craftsmanship of Scott? There is going to be some good stuff in your film. Not Scott's best, but a worthy entry into his filmography. 23 of 23. Maestro. Bradley Cooper starring in, and directing, A Star Is Born bred skepticism. Then it was a massive hit and got a ton of Oscar nominations. Thus, Cooper starring in, and directing, Maestro bred intrigue. That intrigue bore fruit in a big way. Cooper's biopic of composer Leonard Bernstein struck a chord with critics, which helped pave the way for the general audience. Netflix hasn't gotten that Best Picture win yet. Could Maestro finally make it happen? 23 Best Movies of
when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.